Nicolas Cage's once thriving career started to decline in the late 2000s, when many of the actor's expensive films, including Bangkok Dangerous, Lord of War, The Wicker Man, and Next, started to fail at the box office. Cage still has occasional box office successes. For example, the sequel to National Treasure had a successful run in theaters in 2007, and Alex Proyas's Knowing did well in 2009. The actor's career took a turn in 2010. That was the last time he was entrusted with a blockbuster-level budget. The Sorcerer's Apprentice was entirely Nicolas Cage's project. He was the one who came up with the idea for the film. After the immense success of The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, all Hollywood studios rushed to find some fantasy books that could be turned into profitable franchises. Most of their attempts failed. However, Nicolas Cage was either unaware of it or chose to ignore it. With his clever movie idea about the existence of magic, he approached his friend Jerry Bruckheimer, Hollywood's most renowned and successful producer at the time. Before 2010, Bruckheimer and Cage collaborated on numerous projects. Their films The Rock, Con Air, Gone in 60 Seconds, and National Treasure were all box office hits. Back then, Jerry Bruckheimer was regarded as Hollywood's highest-grossing producer, largely due to the immense success of his Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, which earned him almost $3 billion. Studios readily gave him funding for his new projects. The first film collaboration they failed with was G-Force, released in 2009. However, Nicolas Cage, who only voiced a guinea pig, is unlikely to be blamed for the failure. Jerry Bruckheimer's huge success with the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy helped him effortlessly secure a $150 million budget from Disney for Nicolas Cage's idea. After all, Cage was still seen as a big star, even though he had lost some of his shine by that time. Cage and Bruckheimer's plans were truly ambitious. They intended to make The Sorcerer's Apprentice into a trilogy, and release an animated feature set in the same universe. It's important to note that following the success of the Pirates franchise, which grossed nearly $3 billion from its first 3 movies, Disney had little concern for how Bruckheimer used the funds it provided. After all, everyone in Hollywood saw Bruckheimer as the golden goose. All this eventually led to a series of failures and the termination of the studio and producer's working relationship after The Lone Ranger. Bruckheimer's first major failure at Disney was the already mentioned The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nicolas Cage. The film's production costs were enormous. The Sorcerer's Apprentice brought Bruckheimer and Cage their largest earnings, and neither of them was ever paid that much again. Throughout the production, Cage tried to take on any task that came his way. He took part in writing the script, assisted the producer, did the editing, and personally scoured flea markets for trendy pants for his character. Van Damme did the same thing early in his career, taking on several jobs at once and successfully rescuing troublesome films. Cage, however, didn't do as well as Van Damme. The movie turned out bad. At least, that's what the test audience and studio thought. Almost 30 minutes were cut from the film after test screenings. All of the exploration of the magical world, which Cage was so enthusiastic about, remained somewhere behind the scenes. The failure was massive. The Sorcerer's Apprentice grossed $63 million in the United States and another $152 million worldwide, but that was not enough to even cover the production costs. Cage and Bruckheimer both actively blamed the film's unfortunate release date. That July, there were a lot of children's films coming out. Cage's movie had to contend with the box office giants Despicable Me and Toy Story 3. Furthermore, The Karate Kid and M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, both PG-rated, were still being screened in cinemas. To top it all off, Cage's film was released on the same day as Christopher Nolan's Inception, which clearly attracted some of the adult audience that might have gone to the new PG movie. This excuse, however, does not sound very convincing. During the summer, the American box office is always packed with new releases. Besides, all of the films mentioned also competed with one another. However, the only one that failed was Nicolas Cage's film. And even though The Last Airbender is also considered a failure, it still grossed twice as much money as The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Simply put, The Sorcerer's Apprentice was one of the biggest failures of the 2010 summer season. It put an end to Nicolas Cage's career as a big star. The actor lost a few profitable contracts. Plus, the budget for the sequel to Ghost Rider was quickly reduced by $43 million, downgrading it from a blockbuster to a lower-budget film. After The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Nicolas Cage solidified his success with 4 more consecutive failures. Drive Angry, Seeking Justice, The Frozen Ground, and Trespass all failed at the box office. The box office results for the second Ghost Rider film in 2012 were disappointing as well. Nicolas Cage's career came to an end, and he started appearing in movies that can barely be classified as such. Even his physical appearance has worsened, and it was painful to look at him. However, thanks to his busy youth, Cage now appears in 6, 7, or even 8 films a year. Naturally, they do not bring him as much money as his films did in the 1990s and 2000s, but it is likely enough to cover his debts. This is all unfortunate because if The Sorcerer's Apprentice had succeeded, it could have saved Cage's career. If the film had paid off and received a sequel, Nicolas wouldn't have ended up in low-quality films so soon, if at all. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and stay tuned.